with dubstep, this kind of structure is very straightforward, to be honest. They're not particularly long tunes compared to like old vinyl tunes. I'm just going to bring the thing in here. I have a weird habit where I never start on bar 1 for some reason, so it starts at a minute in and it finishes at 3:50, so really it's about 3 minutes long. With this kind of music, people tend to have quite short attention spans, and I would generally get through about 70 tunes in an hour's set, so it's perfect length really, especially if you're double dropping tracks as well. Everything's in blocks of 16 bars. So you've got a kind of, I've kind of haven't with the intro here. The intro is 16 bars and the breakdown and build-up's only 8 bars here. But I tend to do things in blocks of 16, I think, or maybe I just run out of interesting things to put in the build-up, so I made it only 8 bars. So I've got an 16 bar drum intro. So this is the bit where people would DJ over the top of a track, a playing track, and then they cut to this track here at the breakdown, probably. That's the easiest way to DJ anyway. Then this is the kind of the build-up here. Then there's the drop, and then the second section of the drop, so it's kind of an A section and a B section, and then it loops back round, and so we've got another breakdown here. I've actually made this one twice as long as the breakdown, this breakdown here, just kind of a bit of variety, I guess, and then it dropped into the same pattern, and then there'll probably be a very simple kind of. It looks like I haven't quite finished the end of that. Again, you're seeing the work in progress track here. I think I'll probably just put a big reverb on the end or something like that to finish the track off, but that's pretty much how I would end it. It's a very simple structure. So what I'll do is I'll play the intro and the breakdown so you can see what I mean. So first of all, here's kind of quite a simple, a lot of people would have drums or a hi-hat. I think because it's quite atmospheric, I elected basically just to have this kind of like a rim shot with a reverb on it as the only rhythmical reference to the intro, just so when people are DJing it they can hear it's in time. Anyway, so here's the 16 bar intro.
They get here and start.
Okay, so that's the intro. So very simple, because I mean people won't really, some people listening at home might listen to it, so there's enough interest in there that it's not completely just hi-hats like old, like old house tunes, but it's still very DJable and DJ friendly. Then the breakdown.
Once they get here and start to attack, we'll have no way to stop them.
So what I've done here is I've kind of introduced elements of the tune as a teaser. So in the intro I've got a kind of a high-passed version of the main drop sound, which is kind of teased, and then in the build-up I've got another, I've duplicated them every time so I have more tune, and I've got like a kind of a low-pass filter here using FabFilter Simplon, which is kind of opening up. I'll show you here as it plays. That's just one method of kind of teasing people into the theme of the tune so they'd recognise it. I've kept the intro pretty simple. I've just found a bunch of random samples which I've pitched into the right key. So I found like a whale noise, which I thought was really cool. It almost sounded like a didgeridoo, which I haven't processed at all. I've just kind of layered a fly buzzing, which was just part of some like BBC sound effects library, I think. And then they've got some. A lot of the reverb is coming from, I think I've got kind of a crash sound here. Yeah, like a kind of a glass smash with a reverb. And all that reverb kind of gels all these different samples together quite nicely by kind of having a constant noise over the top, so they don't sound kind of randomly spaced out and kind of dry between them. If you see what I mean. So there's quite a lot of continuity, and the reverb's almost like the glue. Okay, so the build-up, the other thing I've got here, it's very simple. I've got a kick drum. With reverb on it. So I've got distortion and I've EQ'd it. I've got a reverb on it. And then a filtering the whole thing. I always put the filter right at the end of the chain of those kind of things because you want to get, all of the harmonics filtered up. Very simple way of doing the build up. Then I've got some kind of down lift. I've got like a lifter here, another one of the Excellent Vengeance ones, which I've then copied over and reversed.
His mouth is full of bees.
What else have I got going on here? Got like a kind of impact thing here that's been reversed. Kind of an impact thing that I've just reversed again, and I've got these kind of random samples I've collected, like a brass kind of sample that I found somewhere. I think that was like off an old record, and you can actually hear that it sounds quite nasty and time stretched there, but this is the beauty of layering stuff up.
His mouth is full of bees.
Is you can kind of mask it pretty easily. There's also the theme, this whole mouth is full of bees. This came from some old like 1940s movie trailer that's out of copyright that I found.
Once they get here and start to attack, we'll have no way to stop them.
And that's basically just been EQ'd.
Once they get here,
to take the low end out, and then I use a bit crusher a lot.
Once they get here and start to attack, we'll have...
It's quite subtle, but a little bit of bit crushing I find often brings out the sharpness at the top end. It kind of makes it grittier and easier to hear old samples without making them sound too harsh, which can happen a lot if you push the top end too much. So bit crushing is great on like old found samples. And that's the main parts there is to it really. In terms of the mixdown, the main tools that I would do is, as I was saying, using LFO tool. So I've got I'll bring the elements in one at a time. So I'm going to bring the bass line in first. That's been ducked using LFO tool to punch around the kick and the snare. So when I bring the kick and the snare in, they sound good together. There's sound around it. Then when I add in a hi-hat, I've also LFO tooled that and the little percussion loop, so it shouldn't interfere at all. I've then got a crash, which is quite a high pass, so it shouldn't get in the way. Then got like a down riser. Again, it's so much, it's just high frequency, so it doesn't really get in the way. And that's pretty much it. I've got like a kind of a stab thing here, which if it was longer and constantly playing, would probably be a bit of a, it would make the mix a bit too busy. It would be a bit of a problem, but because it only plays once, it kind of goes and it doesn't really bother you. Like if that was constantly playing, like, let me just, if I just copy it over for illustration of points. If you see what I mean, it would completely dominate the mix, and I'd have to like notch out the mid-range frequencies and sidechain and all sorts of stuff. It sounds like, as you just heard, like a total mess, and would dominate that area, and you wouldn't be able to hear the bass line. But like those little one shots, you don't have to worry about too much. And for like the turnarounds, I work in audio a lot, so I've literally just gone audio, process, pitch shift, and just pitched it wherever I want it to kind of make notes in my head. So I've kind of imagined the notes rather than whacking it into a sampler. You probably noticed actually that I use audio a lot. I use MIDI for things that come in live out the synth, but I don't tend to use samplers for things like drums. And that's because, let's say for example, oh, this sounds good, but that snare needs to be a little bit shorter. There you go, just make that one shorter. Or I think audio, process, reverse, I'd like a reverse kick there, new version, done on that one. There's no like duplicating it, messing around. Some people might be big advocates of samplers, and that's fine, but I really like doing it in audio because I just find it's much quicker for editing. And say for example, there's a bit of a mess there, you can just add your own kind of manual sidechain type thing. So yeah, pretty straightforward really. And then all I've really done, I think that covers most of how the mixdown's done in a track like this. It's pretty straightforward really. It's just a case of making sure that your kicks and snares still cut through. So anything like, again like this, using LFO tool, you see I've got quite it goes completely dead and flat, so that the kick can punch through here. I imagine the kick waveform looks a bit like this. So it's not like it's waiting for the kick to completely disappear like it might if you were using sidechain compression, but the main transient and smack of the kick will have hit and been heard in terms of rhythm by the time that the other stuff gets in, so it doesn't make it too busy.